Good morning, my dear students. I am Mr. Joel James A. Cubillas. Join me once again as we explore another lesson in English and literature. For this lesson, you are expected to number 1, compare and contrast similar information presented in different texts. 2, take note of important concepts and details from different texts presented through making annotations. 3, make connections between texts to particular issues, concerns, or dispositions in life. And your most essential learning competency for today is to make connections between texts to particular social issues, concerns, or dispositions in real life. To start, I want you to read the poem entitled Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now, I have uploaded a document in our Google Drive, so please download, print, and then read. And once you're done reading, come back to this video for our discussion. Welcome back. Now that you're done reading the poem, let me ask you these two questions. Can you relate the poem with yourself? Can you relate the poem with the world that you live in? Okay, now I have additional questions, 5 more questions, and your answers to these questions must be written on your notebook. Okay, so here are your 5 questions. Your first question, what do sunset and evening star symbolize? Your second question, what does turns again home in stanza number 2 mean? Third question, who is the entity referred to by the word pilot in stanza number 4? What does crossing the bar mean? How can you relate the meaning of the poem to your personal experiences? And lastly, can you associate this with other people's experiences? Explain further and elaborate on your answers. I will give you 5 minutes to answer all of these questions. You may write your answers on your notebook. Your 5 minutes start now. Now I hope you're done writing your thoughts. If you're not yet done, you can pause this video and continue afterwards. Remember, this video will also be uploaded in my YouTube channel, flash herein. So take your time and study at your own pace. Okay, let's proceed. Reading materials like the one presented portray particular themes and meanings. By understanding their elements, we can say that they create significant connections to our personal experiences and to the world that we live in. For your first learning task, I want you to read the selection on page 7 of your SLM. It is an excerpt from President Obama's presidential proclamation. Now, if you don't have your SLM with you, again, I have attached the said excerpt on our Google Drive. If you're done reading, again, please come back to this video for further discussion. Welcome back. Here are the questions that you need to answer. You may write the answers on your notebook. And again, as always, take your time in answering. The 5 questions will be flashed. A while ago, I asked you to reflect on a particular poem. Reflecting means thinking deeply or carefully about a certain idea. The point of reflecting is to make connections. And that is the topic which we will delve on. Making connections. Making connections. You might not have noticed, but your previous experiences, knowledge, emotions, and understanding affect what and how you learn. The schema, or your personal background knowledge and experiences, actually help you make sense and meaning of the material you are exposed to. Learning how to access this prior knowledge, experiences, emotions, and opinions can help you make a connection to the text to help you understand concepts better. Keene and Zimmerman, they are philosophers, in 1997, they concluded that students like you comprehend better when you make different kinds of connections. These three connections include the following. The first one, text to self. The second, text to text. And lastly, text to world.
This week, we will be learning about making connections. When we read, we find ways that the text is like things in our own lives and other texts we have read. There are 3 ways we can make connections to the text. We can use text-to-self connections, we can use text-to-text connections, and we can use text-to-world connections. Let's first take a look at text-to-self connections. When you make a text-to-self connection, you're relating something from the story to yourself. For example, when I was reading the story, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, it made me think of the time when I really wanted cookies and I wasn't allowed to have them. Just like when Pigeon wants to drive the bus, but he's not allowed to. Now let's take a look at text-to-text connections. When I am making a text-to-text connection, I am relating something from the story that I am currently reading to a story that I have read in the past. For example, when Pigeon wants to drive the bus and Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, it reminds me of when the cows wanted electric blankets from the farmer in Click Clack Moo, Cows That Type. Finally, let's take a look at text-to-world connections. When you are making text-to-world connections, you are relating something from the story you are currently reading to something that's happening in your community or neighborhood or even the news. For example, when Pigeon wants to drive the bus, it makes me think about how bus drivers right now have to wear masks when they drive the bus. Thank you so much for watching this quick video about making connections. I hope you have just as much fun making connections as I did.
Now, I hope you understand the 3 types of connections. Now, I will teach you a specific way on how to connect ideas. This time, by making annotations. The best way to remember and associate your experiences with those presented in any text is by annotating. Annotating is to make marks on the text. It is not simply highlighting appealing words or sentences, though you will most likely end up highlighting the entire selection. It is a purposeful strategy to help you comprehend what you are reading on a deeper level than if you were just to read it straight through. It is an excellent way to deconstruct the text into meaningful pieces for better understanding. Its main goal is to make connections between what you already know about practically anything and the world around you.
I can do anything. I can reach any goal today. I can do what I want. I can be what I want to be.
Hi guys, I'm Katie Azevedo from schoolhabits.com. Today's video is about how to annotate your text while you're reading. And if at any point during this video you like what you see, please give it a thumbs up, or better yet, click subscribe below. I always forget on what side of the screen it is. Annotating a book or an article is a fundamental school habit that you'll want to develop as early as possible. Sometimes you might be required to annotate text and might actually get a homework grade for doing so, depending on your teacher. But even if annotating isn't a requirement, it's a great skill to have and just might be the key that you've been missing in your reading life. True though. So first things first, annotating means taking notes on a text, either in a book or an article or something similar. So to annotate means to take notes. Now you might be wondering why the heck you'd want to annotate anyway. For so many reasons, but the most important reason you'd annotate is for a deeper understanding of the material. So taking notes on your text helps you comprehend what you're reading on a much deeper level than if you were to just read it straight through. So here are 4 major benefits of annotating. Number 1, it keeps you awake and engaged as you read. You have to stay awake. And it reduces your chances of fake reading syndrome. I've coined that. I think, when you read and you think you're reading and you're not. Number 2, it helps you process what you're reading as you're reading it. Number 3, it slows down your reading, which is actually a good thing because decreasing your pace can often increase your comprehension and retention. And number 4, it double whammies as a way to quickly find information later on. So in other words, when you go back into the book to find something later, you can just read your annotations, which is faster than reading the actual text a second time through. So how do you annotate? Just as there are so many types of learners, there are so many different techniques that suit different students. You might have to experiment for a while to see what does and doesn't work for you, but there are some basic annotation principles or rules to keep in mind as you figure out your system. So here are 11 annotation techniques that you might find helpful. Number 1, circle any unfamiliar words as you're reading, and then look them up and write down the definition. Here's a little hack. If you get the dictionary.com app, you can look the word up in like 2 seconds on your phone if you keep your phone right next to you. Not that you should have your phone when you're studying, but say. Number 2, use question marks in the book to indicate areas of uncertainty. So anytime you're reading and you're like, what? Put a question mark. Number 3, use stars to indicate anything that seems important, such as themes or symbols or foreshadowing. Number 4, use exclamation points to indicate something dramatic or a key turning point or something you want to come back to. Number 5, circle or mark somehow, pick a shape, use a trapezoid. I don't even remember what a trapezoid looks like. Circle any character names anytime they are introduced for the first time in the book. Number 6, keep a list somewhere, maybe on the inside cover, of all the characters and their traits. And you would add to this list as new characters are introduced or as you learn more about the existing characters. Number 7, write your notes in the margins, which is the best method, on sticky notes, which is a decent method, or in a separate notebook, which is your least favorable method. But if you don't own the book, you can't write in it, so you might have to do that. Number 8, paraphrase, which is a summarization technique, each chapter after you finish reading it. Now you only need a few sentences to do this. So write it down, write your little summary down at the beginning or the end of each chapter. Take the time to do this right after you read the chapter and not like 5 chapters later. Number 9, write down any questions that you have about the text. Either questions you're willing to wait to find out the answer to as you read further, or questions that you want to bring up to your teacher in class the next day. Number 10, we're almost there. Use a color-coded system if that type of thing appeals to you. Colors, yes. Number 11, give each chapter a title. So after you finish reading each chapter, go back to its title page and give it a title. Now, the title should simply be the main idea of the chapter or a statement about the main event in the chapter. If the chapter already has a title, chances are that it's just a catchy one. It's interesting and not helpful. So still go ahead and title it yourself with a little summary statement. Here's a note though. If you're reading a text on your tablet or your iPad, you can still annotate. There are so many cool apps that allow you to circle, underline, highlight, use a trapezoid, doodle, whatever. Just do a basic search for annotation apps and you'll find a bunch. I Annotate PDF, I think is a good one. I don't know if things have changed, but that used to be a good one. I think you have to pay for it though. Check it out. So when you're reading and you're annotating, keep in mind that your notes should represent your thoughts. Your notes should represent your interaction with the story, with the author, the characters, etc. You don't worry about writing things down that just sound smart just because you think that's what your teacher wants. It's totally pointless. Let your annotations really reflect your true thoughts and feelings as you read. Hopefully you have some. But if you really listen to your inner voice as you read, the voice that says, huh? Why'd that happen? Or, oh, that's awesome. Or, that's not a good sign, all those things that pop up into your head when you're reading, then the whole process of annotating is so much easier. You think it up here, you write it down here. And you'll have to think less about it that way. I promise. Now, last 2 words of caution though. First, annotating text is a skill that you'll develop more and more as you do it more and more. So as you first start off, you might not annotate much at all because you're not sure where to start. And if that's the case, keep checking back to the 11 annotation techniques that I just walked you through and check to see which one you need to be doing more of. It's okay to be reserved as you start though. You'll get the hang of it soon enough. But I have also seen the opposite, where a student underlines like every single word on a page or highlights the entire article or chapter as just neon the whole way through. When you do this, nothing stands out, which defeats the purpose of taking notes in the first place. So definitely go easy on the markings, go easy on the highlighter, or your notes, they're not gonna be helpful. My second word of caution is that while annotating is an excellent skill that allows you to get that deep, close understanding of a text, you don't need to do it all the time. If you're reading a book for pleasure, relax, just read the book. If you're reading an article in one of your favorite magazines, just relax and read the article. There's no need to make a job out of something that's supposed to bring you joy. So annotation can bring your reading comprehension to the next level. Try it. Why not? Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, please click a like or subscribe below, and definitely leave your comments in the section below. I read those, and if you have something to contribute, something that's perhaps helped you in your schooling or in your life, and if you put it out there for the world to see, that might help someone else, and isn't that awesome? Thanks for watching.
To make it more engaging and interesting, you may also use illustrated annotations or drawings, which use images to represent concepts and elements. The creation of illustrations may help you synthesize information and, at the same time, help increase creativity and engagement while reading. They make annotating text a more hands-on experience and learning a more meaningful and personal. That quote is by Gare in 2019. Now for your learning task 2. I want you to reread the selection in Learning Task 1, the poem. Then, in your notebook, copy and accomplish the Community Connection Reading Response Graphic Organizer. The excerpt from President Obama's speech is still relatable to this day. I hope that you would be able to reflect on it and make connections with our community. For your third learning task, here is what you need to do. Based on the text in Learning Task 1, make a community plan using the template below or the template here. Use a separate sheet for your output. Use the format on page 11 of your SLM. Please be guided by your SLM. There is an interesting story that I would like you to read on page 12 to 15 of your SLM. The title is The Gift of Maggie by O. Henry. As you read, you may draw illustrated annotations on your notebook to take note of important details and concepts taken from the text. Afterwards, you need to answer the questions that follow. So all in all, you have 6 questions to answer. The first one, who are the characters in the story? The second one, why did the characters sell their most valuable items? Third, what is a Maggie? Or what are Maggie? Relate your answer to the characteristics of Jim and Della. Fourth, how will you relate the story to your personal experiences? Fifth, how will you relate the story to the account on the three Magi in the story of the birth of Jesus? Sixth, does this world need more Magi? Explain what life lessons can be derived from this story. Your fifth learning task. Let me explain. Using the selection in learning task number 4, accomplish the notice, wonder, connect, organizer on page 16 of your SLM. Make connections between texts to particular social issues, concerns, or dispositions in real life. Do this in your notebook. So for that learning task, you will be given 4 questions. The first question is, what are the 2 main ideas of the article? Second one, what do you think is the purpose of the article? Third, do you know any similar circumstances experienced by Filipino firefighters or other risk reduction personnel in your community? Lastly, complete the community connections graphic organizer on the next page. I hope that you have thoroughly learned the making of connections and using annotations. You are now prepared for the final project. For your learning activity number 8, make a cultural content connections project related to the text you have read in learning task 1. Do this in your notebook. Please be reminded that this is an independent project where you will research on a particular community icon, living or non-living, like a local hero, a leader, a volunteer, or an advocate who has made some sort of contribution to the community and culture where you belong. Whether the community icon pioneered an advocacy, made something better, contributed enormous ideas, or discovered something, we want to know about it. You have 5 choices for the type of product that you will be completing. Choose one from the given options. First option, news article. Second option, children's book. Third, poster. Fourth, model. And 5, digital presentation. There you have it, my dear students. I hope you learned from this video demo. Next time you read a poem, you need a news, or any article, make it a little more fun by using annotations and making connections. Again, this is Mr. Joel James A. Cubillas. See you on our next lesson and stay safe.